Good evening, St. George North. Good evening to the people on the stream. Good evening to the Reefer family, which has made a contribution to this country. And we acknowledge that contribution and pay you respect. And therefore, it is sad to see a member of your family not associating themselves with the party that has done less for this constituency, not more. This is a historic evening, not because it is an all-female platform, because the NDP did that maybe 20 or so years ago. What is historic about this moment is that the niece of Ermy Bourne, who was Barbados' first female MP, stands on a Barbados Labour Party platform with the Grand Dame of the Barbados Labour Party, Dame Billy Miller, forming the bridge with Mia Mottley to the generation that you saw tonight, to Sandra Bradshaw, to Marsha Cattle, to Sandra Bradshaw, to Marsha Cattle. Quick before it blow away. Sandra Bradshaw to Marsha Cattle, to Sandra Husbands. Thank you. And that's the present generation. And then acting further and looking to the future for those who will serve after us and in this generation, but they will then form the link to the next generation. Tony Moore, to people like Roshana and Shanika. What you are seeing tonight, the Democratic Labour Party cannot do. And you know why it cannot do it? Because to this day, we can stand up and have a platform of female ministers, of former ministers, of MPs, of senators. The Democratic Labour Party has had one female minister in its history. One.
Oh, Lord!
This is history being made. And as my Prime Minister said, you will, in time, some of you who are young and some of you who are passing on will say that you stood here tonight and witnessed history. And it isn't just that we are women. It is that we are women of whom you can be proud, because we came out of the bosom of Barbados and of the belly of the Barbados Labour Party. It is particularly moving for me to speak here because my mother grew up short there just below the St. George Parish Church in the house of a man called Bertie Haynes. And when she got to her early teens, he was her uncle. Her family was poor. He was not poor. He was comfortable. He had no children. He had a son called Son. He had no daughters. He loved my mother. And I thank God that she is alive tonight, because I didn't think she would be. And my grandmother, my father's mother, came to St. George from St. Michael and took her out of her uncle's house. She had barely turned 13. And put her to work as a maid, cleaning houses, cooking, helping to support her family. And I became a Labour Party supporter partly because my mother said to me, that when Grantley Adams became leader of Barbados, her life changed. She knew what it was to get time off. She knew what it was for legislation to change her life to one of dignity. I can tell you of the night that my mother, my sister, and I walked from the St. George Parish Church in darkness. And I say in darkness because we take electrification now for granted. Narrow roads, walking, heading to St. Michael. There weren't a lot of motor cars then. People didn't have a lot of TV then. Everybody got cell phone now. Passing people. Every now and then you see a house with a TV and you know the house that had TV because people would be standing outside looking on at what was showing. And I watched in '76 when Billy Miller and Tom Adams and others came and Henry Ford, and I watched how they transformed Barbados. I watched how St. George was transformed. I watched as little children who were called bastards because their parents were not married. I was one of them. And the Labour Party changed that legislation so that every child in Barbados could have dignity. I watched as the Labour Party allowed women who had lived with men for years and the men could walk away and tell them, I'm done with you. Said, no, not that can't happen. You got to get them something. They put the labor, they put the sugar, they put everything into the relationship. Get them $1. I watched the Barbados Labour Party change that. I watched this country develop. I watched this ABC highway open up. And as a result, developments in St. George, middle class development, commercial development, because St. George stopped being a rural parish and became part of the urban Barbados and the wider development. Oh, this is a historic night because we stand on this platform asking you to give us more because we in the Barbados Labour Party have given St. George North more because we in the Barbados Labour Party have given Barbados more because we in the Barbados Labour Party have given young men and young women in this country more. We have given you more, and tonight we ask you to give us more. Give us more. When I hear her speak, I know she is deserving of being elected. When I hear her speak, I know that she is not the puppet that the Democratic Labour Party want to make her out to be. I see a strong, independent woman, bright, articulate, a woman who wants to give her country more, a person who has served working class people in this country and has said that she will bring her energy, her intellect, her skills, her ability to give this constituency more. And so I ask the Democratic Labour Party candidate tonight, because he is a person who knows what it is to lead. Tell me who your leader is. Tell me what your leader stands for. May I have some water, please? Tell me who your team is. And let's start there. Thank you so much. All right, sweet boy, so I like cold water with ice in a cup. Thank you. But I'm grateful, I'm grateful. And this is important. It is important to discuss the issue of the team and the leadership. Mia Amor Mottley and Henrietta Elizabeth Thompson ran for the first time in the 1991 campaign. We both lost. I was beaten 5-1 You don't get beaten worse than that in politics. I did not run away. She did not run away. We returned to our constituencies, went back to the people who rejected us, and said, here we are willing to serve. We have a woman tonight leading the Democratic Labour Party. We hear that she lives in St. Michael. She ran in Christchurch. They rejected her and she ran away from there, and now we hear she heading north toward the cement plant. Oh
Lord!
What are you going to stick at when the going gets tough? The tough get going. When the going got tough, Verla ran away. When people reject you in a constituency, when you want to serve, you come back and you say, here I am. Don't run about Barbados looking for holes. What strength of character does she have as a leader? When things get rough in the country, how is she going to deal with it? Listen, about a week or so ago, I heard her say that she heard or she saw or she was told that Tony was walking about in St. George months ago. To tell you the truth, if I wasn't wearing a mask, you would have seen my tonsils because my mouth dropped open. Why is it that if you are a leader and you know that the government has put a candidate in place and is walking around canvassing a constituency 3 or 4 months ago, that you would wait till a few days ago to look for a candidate? How are you going to prepare a country when you see crisis coming? If you sit down and do nothing. Of course, she was trying to save her own skin because she was trying to secure the leadership. But you cannot be focused on yourself. In the middle of the COVID crisis, the Prime Minister had surgery. She didn't focus on herself. She got up. She came out. She spoke out. She worked hard. She determined what agenda the country would have, and she talked us through it. But on the other side, you have a leader who sees a candidate coming according to her. Now, I don't know. There's people who see duppies. There's people who see through crystal balls. There's people who see all kinds of things. I don't know how she saw when the Prime Minister and Tony said that it was only a couple weeks ago, and Sir Leroy said it too, Sir Roy Trotman. It was only then that she was asked. So if you see people coming, wouldn't you prepare your party? Wouldn't you prepare yourself and get your candidate in place? What does that tell you about Verla? And you know what? The DLP calls our party leader a bully. We call her Karen. A bully is somebody, and I'm sure some of you have the video, who jumps off of a truck in a constituency in Christchurch, sees people, little children, rush up in the face with a bullhorn and start shouting at them. What kind of creature other than a bully treats people's little children that way? Little children who have no vote. But how do we see me as Karen? We see it when there's a flood in the city, not in her constituency, and she gets out of her bed with a pair of boots, wading through water, going to the houses, checking on the people, making sure that families and children are safe and well, finding out if anything can be done for them. We see her caring when a hurricane is headed toward the country and she in the defense force with people parceling out the food. When she could be home with her security, safe. She is saying to Barbados, I am here to serve. Who is Verla tonight? And what interest is she serving? Whose interest is Verla serving? They tell us that Mottley is a talker. She don't listen. She is not a listener. But here is a woman who evidently, by the policy she has put in place, has seen and heard the cries of people, the cries of those in the tourism sector, the self-employed, the private sector, the adoptive families, the Hampers program. This is a woman who has elevated people at every level. They call her elitist. We say that she is not. But you know, this elitist argument is the same argument that the Democratic Labour Party tried in 2018. They forget that Errol Barrow himself said that he was part of the social elite of Barbados, born on a plantation, born with a gold spoon. The truth is, I don't care if you are born with a gold spoon, a silver spoon, or a platinum spoon. If your policies are going to transform Barbados and make a difference in the quality of life, in the education, in the health, in the social and economic circumstances of people in this country. Frondel was not born with a gold spoon or a silver spoon or a platinum spoon, but he did nothing for the poor people out of whom he came. He made people in this country poorer. And when the time had come to give relief, he gave none. Verla is exactly like that. She was in the Senate when Tony was begging for something for the workers. Verla was silent on those matters, supporting DLP policy that did not allow salary increases for civil servants. Tony Moore fought for that. Mia Mottley, the caring Prime Minister, gave those increases. They say she is despotic. I say she is democratic. Here tonight, black, white, young, old, Indian, rich, poor, BLP, DLP, no affiliation. Look, not only is she democratic, but she has sought to elevate all kinds of people. West Hall will now have its own statue. Groiner has a highway. People that under a Democratic Labour Party would never have been recognized. West Hall served the Democratic Labour Party. They didn't think they should do anything for him. So let us understand that what we are looking at is a situation where the Democratic Labour Party is hoping to throw enough dirt, enough doubt, enough fear to stop people from supporting the Prime Minister and the Barbados Labour Party. And the way they talk, you would doubt your own eyes and mine. Consider, for example, that they have spent weeks criticizing a misspeak by Brother Delisle. Why? They have to focus on him so that nobody will remember that it was the Barbados Labour Party who elevated Sagari to the status of national hero. They have to focus on a simple error for which an apology was made so that nobody will remember that it was the Barbados Labour Party who built pavilions and created playing fields and sporting facilities all over this country. They have to focus on a mistake so that nobody will remember that it was the Barbados Labour Party that promoted the cricketing legends in Barbados. They have to focus on a simple slip of the tongue, not made with malice. In a situation where our policies reached out to sports persons, building new facilities, financing cricketers so that at every season of their sports career, they have support. If policy to give jobs to cricketers from which the candidate for this area benefited. A policy to give duty-free cars to cricketers and other sports persons from which others whose name you know benefited. If you were allowed to focus on the real issues, you would remember that Colin Spencer was manager of the National Stadium when there was a decaying, dilapidated, dropping down National Stadium, when there was no stadium to serve sports persons in this country. And the Democratic Labour Party had the gall at the launch of their campaign to come and put their boxy toward the stadium and the bush and the faces towards the duppies at Two Sons and curse me and Mottley and the Barbados Labour Party past her birthplace. They call me Mother Sally. Well, you know the song Daddy No Land? Mother Sally No Land.
Oh Lord.
And I have heard no apology from any member of the Democratic Labour Party about that. Certainly not from its leader, who was there as that abusing took place. And the next day, when the people of Barbados cried out and said it was disgraceful, do you know what the Prime Minister of the day said? That they have a narrative to tell, and they will be telling it. They are going to double down on the abusing and on what they were saying. He didn't say on the abusing, but on their narrative, and the narrative was the abusing. Delisle apologized. Nobody in the Dems have apologized to this day to any member of the Barbados Labour Party whom they insulted, not to any woman, not to the Prime Minister, and not to the people of Barbados who expected more of a Barbados, of a representative of people with such a long history. They expected more from the Democratic Labour Party, but it was not forthcoming. And who is Verla leading? Verla is a woman who has never won a seat. Speaking tonight with Irene, a woman who has never won a seat. Speaking with Bobby Maris, who was the manager of the manager of the campaign, and therefore the manager of the nastiness of the Democratic Labour Party campaign in 2018. That is, and on the sports, I forgot to make the point. You might, but I don't. If the Democratic Labour Party were challenged on sports, apart from the defunding, the dilapidation, the decimation of sports in this country, they would have to explain why it is that when a former Barbados Labour Party government gave the cricketing legends contracts so that they could live comfortably and so that they could go to the schools, to cricketing grounds, to meet young cricketers, aspiring cricketers, to mentor and guide them. One of the first acts of the Democratic Labour Party was to fire Sir Everton Weekes. People would remember that if the Dems weren't so busy focusing us on Delisle. But you see what is the DLP politics of distraction. So they distract you from the issues, from the real concerns, from the real wrongs, from the true insults, from the genuine injuries that we have suffered at their hands. and they create something else for you to look at and focus on. Who else is on the Democratic Labour Party platform? Well, one, Anthony Wood. No. Wood is my friend. But we know that Wood is a sour grapes man. When he was beaten in St. Philip, Wood behaved real bad. People remember that. He got vexed with the electorate because Wood feels that nobody is to reject him. You got to much him up. You got to love him up. You got to touch him up. You got to be saying all the time, Woody, you're good. Woody, you're good. Woody is the best. Woody, you help a lot. Woody, 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 Woody. Does what he wants.
Oh, Lord.
So what did he tell you? People went up to the meeting in St. George in Newbury to hear something. What did he say? That he wrote me a Mottley 3 letters, 3 emails, and she didn't reply to him. He was waiting to meet, and she didn't reply. Good Lord have mercy. A woman had surgery or was sick enough to go to surgery. A woman is in lockdown. A country is in lockdown. There is a health crisis all over the world. She is trying to chart a social and economic path to keep a country safe, to walk the fine line between keeping activity in an economy and shutting a country down completely. And she does not immediately respond to him. So he joins or goes across to the Democratic Labour Party. Who does that? You mean you can give her a couple days, a couple weeks? You don't know who she is meeting with. If she is contemplating the matter, you could not say, well, PM, you're treating me a little scruffy. I tell you, I want to talk. As man, I want to talk to you. Not Wood. Wood leaves. And then he tells you that he went to school barefooted. Wood, you are not the only person in Barbados who did. But the Barbados Labour Party came to government to stop people from walking barefooted. We came to give dignity to the poor, honor to the underprivileged, respect to the ostracized, courtesy to the alienated, and upliftment to every Bajan. So it does not matter what if you went to school barefooted. That is in the past. The Barbados Labour Party is ensuring that even in COVID times, not another person will go to school barefooted. And it doesn't matter that Mottley has shoes, because what she has in her heart is caring for the people of Barbados. And you knew who Mia Mottley was when you were serving the Barbados Labour Party. You knew who Mia Mottley was when you were fighting for us to come to government. You knew who Mia Mottley was when you were on the Labour Party platform, blistering the people who you are now standing up with. What foolishness are you talking? I firmly believe that if his name had been Minister Wood, he would have never left the Barbados Labour Party. He did not believe that a newcomer in Dar could stand in front of him as a minister. Mia could have taken a year before she replied to him, and Wood would have sat down and ain't saying a word. And I got proof. Let me tell you what my proof is. He says he had to leave. She treat Trevor Prescott bad. She unfair George Payne. She shamed Neil Rowe, and could their poor Eddie, my cousin. Dame Ermi was my father's sister, and Eddie is also a cousin on my father's side. But, so he don't want to see anybody fired. If you get rid of anybody, he can stand up for their cause by leaving. The question, therefore, is, when the male friend Owen Arthur got rid of Johnny Cheltenham, why didn't Wood speak out then? When his male friend got rid of the same George Payne, why was he silent then? When the Prime Minister Owen Arthur fired Liz Thompson, why he didn't stand up for me? So he come to a Democratic Labour Party platform to bring justice to people who have been unfair, when people were unfair in the past by a male Prime Minister. He didn't call that Prime Minister a dictator. He didn't open his mouth. Come on. And what did he do? He left the Barbados Labour Party. And he said something, April? All Fools Month. He left the Barbados Labour Party to go, he said corruption. Now this is important. If you are going to cite corruption as your reason for leaving, that night he spoke at Newbury. Every 10 minutes he was saying, all right, I'm coming off now. Clearly they were calling him off. He gave no evidence of any corruption in the Barbados Labour Party. He did not say a single thing that anybody in the Labour Party, from Mayor Mottley back down to anybody in the cabinet, anybody in the Senate, he cited no wrongdoing. And he leaves the Labour Party, the house and umbrella of the Barbados Labour Party, to stand on a platform where multiple allegations have been made in relation to corruption. And corruption has been proven because a former minister is now a convicted criminal in the United States, having been investigated by the Federal Bureau of Investigation and found guilty by a jury of men and women. So he leaves the Labour Party saying he got a problem with corruption. And that is the platform that he goes to. Man, look, he would be better off if he had joined Mitchell.
Oh, Lord.
He would have been better off if he had joined Mitchell. And I want you to understand that you are talking about corruption at some of the highest levels. This is a minister of government who had a responsibility to protect the public purse, but instead set up a scheme to loot it. And that is the platform that Wood is on. And they're saying the Prime Minister is a dictator because she said no big works unless you talk to me. Mayor, you're right. Protect the public purse. You cannot have people with all kinds of schemes turning up. You are the Minister of Finance. You are the Prime Minister of this country. You have a fiduciary responsibility to those who supported your party to protect the coffers of this country. Mottley, hold your ground. If they want to set up big works, let them talk to the Minister of Finance. She didn't say that they can't do anything. She didn't say she doesn't respect his ideas. She is saying if you have big ideas and you want big works and it has to come out of the government cash book, talk to the finance minister. I don't see that. That is so unreasonable, but that has now become a big, big issue for the Democratic Labour Party. What else do we know about these women? We know Mottley like a pork chop. Fried, dry. What do we know about Verla? No, I'm serious. Verla has now been around politics for about 10 years. What do you know about her? What can you say about her? Just like she follows in the Frondell Stewart model, you don't know anything about her. You don't know who she is. Is that music? No? Yes? No? Okay, sorry, thanks. I like Woody, you know, they ain't gonna be telling me, come off, come off, come off. But as the party leader said, if he wants to come back, if he recognizes he made an error, she says she will welcome him back, and we in the Barbados Labour Party welcome everybody of goodwill who wants to put their skills available to the country of Barbados. Verla was silent. You know, it is the Democratic Labour Party's philosophy to punish people with silence. That is the Stewart model. Verla is silent about who she is. Verla is silent about people getting benefits. Verla is silent about policy that uplifts this country. Verla is a leader, and you have never heard her put any policy framework or alternative policy positions to the country. None. All she does is criticize, criticize, criticize. While she is criticizing, Barbados and the Barbados Labour Party are holding on to a visionary. We are now getting all of the praise for taking first mover advantage on the issue of a welcome stamp and using it as a COVID relief measure and initiative. Other countries are now following, but we were the first. The Prime Minister has not spoken at length tonight to the nearly 4,000 jobs and $1.4 billion in new investment that is coming into the country. She has not spoken to the green energy park that is going to be built in this country, creating decent work and high-value jobs for men and for women. She has not spoken to the social safety net that was spread for the poor and the vulnerable during the time of COVID. She didn't tell you in detail how the tourism sector is now being funded by the Barbados Labour Party so that they can give 80% of their salaries to workers who are at home having to look their children in the face but having no resources to give them bread. Verla was silent when the Democratic Labour Party kept saying that there was nothing more that could be done and people in this country were being laid off and smelling hell. She was getting her stipend from the Senate. She was getting revenues from cheering things. But the average person, she had no agenda for them. Not then, not now. And that is why I'm asking tonight, if you have led any kind of team, tell me, look at your leader and ask if this is where you want to be. The Democratic Labour Party is running people or looking at people like George Pilgrim everywhere to send him, even up in St. John. People say, I don't want it. Come on. This Prime Minister has moved our foreign reserves from 2 to 3 weeks to over 6 months, the highest that this country has ever had. That is the cushion that she created, that she is now able to provide all of the grants, all of the financial support, all of the social safety nets, all of the benefits. Even unemployed persons were able to go to NIS and get benefits. That is the Prime Minister that we have. But they would want you to believe that somehow This woman is not like the rest of us, that she doesn't bleed or hurt or understand pain like the rest of us, that she can walk like the Democratic Labour Party and see a country in crisis and do nothing, like they did when we had sewerage on the streets of Christchurch, like they did when the Bridgetown sewage plant was creating problems, like they did when people in St. George could not get buses to go to work. Now you got electric buses, Wi-Fi, charging stations, people putting up the foot and telling the minibus, go long, go long. Like they did when there were no garbage trucks, like they did when the hospital did not have supplies, like they did when every sector of our economy was going into crisis and we were having downgrade after downgrade, 13 in all, year after year. Tonight the IMF is lauding Barbados, and Mia Mottley has restored the name and dignity of our country. Turn on any channel, click. Hey, look at the Prime Minister of Barbados, click. Hey, Mia Mottley from Barbados, click. Prime Minister Mia Mottley just said on this national television station, etc., etc. Wherever you turn on, in Barbados, in the Caribbean, internationally, Mottley, Mia Mottley, that is who we have as our leader. Verla cannot stand in her shoes in every sense. Mottley is the heavyweight in every sense. Mottley. And we are proud of what she has been able to accomplish for Barbados. I said during the general election campaign, my horror one night at a function at the Secretary General's residence, Secretary General of the United Nations, when a person at a very high level came up to me and asked me of Frundell Stewart, well, what kind of man is your Prime Minister? He doesn't say anything. Even on issues relating to you, he doesn't say anything. And I am asking you, apart from the criticism that you hear emanating from their platforms, apart from the insults that you hear emanating from their platforms, apart from the distraction and the deflection emanating from their platforms, what is the Democratic Labour Party offering? Because at the end of the day, the candidate who wins is a part of a team. And look at the team on the other side. Look at the leader on the other side and compare with what we are offering on this side. No comparison at all. Thank you, sweet girl. And for people in St. George, you have heard. I want to make, before I go to St. George specifically, I want to remind you, because we forget. I was telling you about the politics of distraction and hypocrisy and how they want to throw dirt and doubt. And they make you feel very uncomfortable about your leader. They did it with Henry Ford. They tried it with Owen Arthur. Let us not forget that in the run-up to 1994, the DLP put out all kinds of jokes about the unbreakables, so that people were made to believe that he did not have the capacity and ability to run a country or an economy. They are now doing the same thing with our present Prime Minister. Don't mind her, she's a bully. Don't mind her, she's a despot. Ignore her, she is a dictator. But the evidence of our eyes shows us a compassionate, caring, attentive woman who has Barbados deep in her heart. and her love for the people of this country propels her to create policy like the monitors, like the cleaning crews, like the 80% salary, like the feeding and economic and empowerment development program, or FEED, where people in this constituency and across Barbados who want to work agriculture will be able to get a piece of land and a farm with high-tech equipment without paying down a cent to help not only to feed their families and create the dream, live their dream of being self-employed and an entrepreneur, but contributing to national feed security. There was no adopt a family program when people were smelling hell under the dams. There was no blue economy to ensure that fishing markets and fishing vessels and fisher folk were given better opportunities and better circumstances. There was none of that. And I'm saying to you tonight that the same way that the Dems used Clyde Maskell to do the grunt work till they were ready to take over the leadership and put it in Thompson's hands, they are doing the same thing with Verla now. She can carry the grunt work, but she will not be leading the party later on. It is clear in the way that she is being treated. The Democratic Labour Party now is the same Democratic Labour Party whom we were asked to support in 2008 and whom we rejected, whom we had to reject on the basis of non-performance. It's the same DLP that this candidate on their side, doesn't matter if he's a nice man, doesn't matter if he's a homer, don't matter if he grew up with you, don't matter if he represented us internationally. This is now a different arena into which he is coming, and he is affiliated with a team and a leader that I am calling on the people of St. George North in their wisdom to reject. To reject. This is not the time for the sideshows. The world and this country is in one of the most serious vice grips of economy and society, crisis of economy and society that the world has ever seen. And we need proper leadership, bold leadership, creative leadership, innovative leadership, imaginative leadership. We need Mayor Mottley and we need Tony Moore. We need the Barbados Labour Party to carry the country through this crisis and to hold people up, to lift them up, to uplift communities, to transform lives, to take us safely into the future, to hold the country steady like the ship of state sailing against the worst headwinds. We are not asking you to reject him because we are elitist. We are asking you not to support him in this instance because he is with the wrong team and he is not the right person for the job. We are offering to give the country and the constituency more. And we ask you to vote for Tony Moore. I want to thank you for not moving. I'm looking at my watch because I said to myself I was not going to talk past midnight. There will be other nights. I don't know how many other meetings there will be in this campaign, but somebody might give me a little pick on the platform. I have 10 more minutes? 10 more minutes. Okay, yes, sorry, my watch is a little fast. 10 more nights. Yeah, but sweet boy. each of us has a responsibility. And I want you to act on that responsibility. The criticisms that are being made of Glenn, although Glenn was the MP, you heard him in Parliament pleading, begging the Democratic Labour Party to do something in St. George, to improve things in St. George. They were the government for 10 years. So when their candidate says that there is a bad bus service, somebody remind them that you had no buses. When their candidate says that garbage don't get collected regularly, somebody remind them that they had no garbage trucks. When he says the roads are bad, somebody remind him that the DLP didn't repair no roads and that Stuart said everywhere got potholes. What are Barbadians complaining about? When he starts to criticize, remind him that for 10 years, the group with which he has now aligned himself put this country under sufferation, social sufferation, economic sufferation. Every facility, every government agency, every program went into decline. Remind him. And when Colin Spencer start to sing about come down here, let Colin, for all his excellent contribution as a Calypsonian, be reminded that he presided over the destruction of the National Stadium, and let him stick to singing about Shirley and forget singing about the Barbados Labour Party. You know, your song named Shirley is about his wife. Really nice song. Very nice tribute. So I salute the Democratic Labour Party candidate for whatever he may have contributed. And I say to you tonight that there have now been more days in this election campaign than his average batting score. So come November 11th, look at where this parish and this constituency has come from. Look at where we are now. Look at what the Barbados Labour Party has given. Look at the contribution Glenn has made. Look at all that Barbados went through under the Democratic Labour Party, and give us Tony Moore on the 11th. I am asking you to clean bowl Floyd Reefer. It will not be the first time.